Traveler, the Man in Red. Chapter 47. Sully noticed it was his deck. That was the first thing he noticed. Not a high-tech floor on some alien vessel in the future, or some fanciful Renaissance hand-sewn rug in the 1700s. No, it was simply a deck. His deck. The one he'd built by hand himself several years ago. When Sullivan Bratworth looked up from his nostalgia of his wooden terrace, he noticed the back of his own head as it bobbed lightly up and down, growing distant, stiffly jogging after a mob of people. In the further distance, he could see Mr. Blue. Well, he could see the back of Mr. Blue's head. And the back of Saber's head, too, as they were running toward the Millennium Center. The retired Commodore looked down to see a small plum of smoke from the cigarette his former self had dropped before running off after Mr. Blue. Sully grinned, but it was a sad grin. He slowly turned to face the man in red, whom he assumed was staring at him. Sully wasn't wrong. Standing in front of the red British phone booth, with his hand on his hips, wide, superhero style, in his perfect crimson zoot suit and scarlet fedora, the strange alien stared at Sully with those vermilion eyes. What was he thinking? Unfathomable. The retired Commodore sighed. So, I suppose this is it, old man.
Happy birthday!
The man in red smiled huge.
As you can guess by watching yourself run off, you really haven't been gone too long, sir.
Sully laughed. There is no way in bloody hell that would have made sense if I hadn't gone traveling around with you.
Remember, you quit smoking.
I remember. Sully nodded, remembering.
Promise me you're done for good?
The man in red shook his finger menacingly. Sully grinned, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. I won't forget, lad. And I won't forget everything you showed me. The man in red hugged Sully briefly, then slapped him on the shoulder. Sully, silly old fart that he was, let a single tear slip down his cheek. You sure you're gonna be all right on your own? With Rock Dog and Bro and
Pudge, yes.
The man in red nodded.
Perfect is always there to watch my back. I'm worried for you now, Sully. We reversed the lung cancer, but honestly, the last bit on the prison planet.
The man in red appeared ashamed for a moment.
With the Ricard, that last was too close for comfort. You're not in the best of shape to be dealing with tears like that.
The retired Commodore stiffened. Luckily, I've known you long enough not to take offense to that.
You know what I mean. Big omniverse out there. Some demons are going to be too dark for a human. I'm sorry.
Don't be. Sully gripped the stranger in scarlet on the shoulder once more. Don't be, old man. Before he departed for the final time, without Sullivan Bratworth, the scarlet stranger saw on the distant boardwalk that Mr. Blue would soon reach the Torchwood hub, along with Saber and the angry Sproul. Wouldn't be long now.
I've a meeting to take, the man in red waved. Stay crazy, Sullivan Bratworth.
The red British phone booth phased backward, disappearing as if swallowed by the earth, leaving nothing but snakes of scarlet lightning and a faint sound of a choir of mechanical angels. In its place was left behind a 100-year-old bottle of Glenlivet Scotch, courtesy of Nichols Baker in Sacramore Downs. Sully grinned, and standing on his deck on his 69th birthday, he sipped scotch while he watched himself run after Mr. Blue, far, far in the distance of the beach. Meanwhile, back inside Purge, the man in red typed coordinates on the ornate ruby and raspberry-colored lactern. The time capsule dematerialized. Where to next, boss? Bro asked. The man in red glanced over at the young Judon.
Short trip. Stay here a minute. I've got to see myself about something.
The rhino fed the rock dog some charcoal. That doesn't make any Traveler, Mr. Blue, Chapter 26. Professor Green walked toward Black. He was about to say something when he was cut off by another brutal yet artificial chorus. A red British phone booth phased from the ground up with a dim, suffused crimson glow. When complete, a short, wiry man in his 30s emerged. Professor Green opened an antique jade umbrella.
As I was saying, I am only here as a favor to Saber. Say that 5 times fast.
The man in red cracked a smile. So? Black blurted out, getting his former self's attention. All together now. We only have a short window here. After his meeting with his future selves, the stranger in the scarlet suit re-entered Purge. Bro stood at the console, his huge rhinoceros head turned to see the man in red walk across Purge's lavish burgundy interior and vanish inside a doorway that hadn't been there a minute ago. Traveler, Mr. Blue, Chapter 30. Deceit ran, following the time agent out of the bar. She spun to fire everything she had at the Endless. The Time Lady hoped to collapse the unstable temporal structure on top to the travelers, bringing them down once and for all. The man in red caught her off guard. Deceit had not noticed his watch extend a 2-foot-long glowing crimson laser sword. She was able to fire a single bolt before the man in red severed the ends of her EM wrenches, rendering them useless. The white shock sped toward Black. He raised his time watch and formed a glowing neon iris particle field in front of him. It dissipated the EM pulse harmlessly. Saber was up almost immediately behind the Time Lady, and she swiped her katana downward, slicing true. Deceit's blood-curdling screams pierced the air as her feet were dissected from her body in one stroke. The screams did not last long. Deceit composed herself, looking down. Bright orange blood gushed from her ankle stubs.
So then, what now?
The Time Lady growled. The man in red tapped a few buttons on his time watch as he stepped through the endless doorway, back into Purge's main console room. Bro's huge rhinoceros features attempting to mimic curiosity, giant eyebrows raised. Busy day? The man in red smiled.